My name is Brianne, and this is Conlon. We are here to address the prosecution claims for why farmers that use glyphosate as a desiccant for post-harvest should be fined based on the glyphosate residue detection. First point of why farmers that use glyphosate as a desiccant should be fined is that it is found toxic to humans and animals when amounts of it are consumed. The second point is glyphosate can be found in water sources above and below ground from runoff, which can cause environmental damage. The third point is microorganisms that reduce plant disease have been found in lower population where the glyphosate has been applied.
Crop producers should not be fined for post-harvest glyphosate residue detection. This rudimentary herbicide ingredient has been vital for the efficient, sustainable, and safe production of numerous crops by killing off broadleaf plants and grasses that limit overall output. With an average control rate of upwards of 90%, glyphosate-based herbicides are one of the most commonly used pesticides worldwide. Having also expanded the genetically modified seed market to complement the vast glyphosate market, taxing farmers for glyphosate use would accomplish nothing more than to build a barrier to profitable inputs. Registered in over 100 countries and available on the market for 4 decades with historical proven success, the use of glyphosate should not be discouraged to advance innovation in agriculture, but promoted.
Glyphosate is toxic to species and reduces the population of them. With the presence of glyphosate in the soil can change the balance of its bacteria and fungi in the soil ecosystem function and the health of the plant.
Why do farmers continue to use glyphosate as a desiccant even though it's unregistered as a desiccant and does not perform as well as traditional desiccants?
Glyphosate has become one of the most commonly used herbicides for many reasons. First of all, its effectiveness. As stated in an article, Glyphosate Facts, the average glyphosate control rate is 90% among all weeds. Second of all, the evidence to support in the same article said that preceding burn-off can increase the yield of up to 30%. Finally, the overall output. As proven in Nature, in International Journal of Science, the average yield dropped from conventional organic practices to approximately 34%. As per your evidence stated, you stated that there has been cancer incidents among glyphosate, but failed to provide any raw data. What specific evidence do you have to support these claims?
Well, it may not be linked specifically to cancer, but it is linked specifically to toxicity in humans, and it can be found to be lethal when consumed.
Why keep using Roundup for more than a herbicide if more weeds are starting to become resistant to it?
According to Pioneer, a weed develops a strong resistance to any given pesticide by the 5th year or 5th application. A resistant weed is considered as being considered to have 60.5% resistant weeds in the total population. It just so happens that the average number of years it takes companies to adapt to resistant weeds and modify chemicals to continue working effectively is also 5 years. These two actions virtually cancel out your claim. You state in your evidence, quote, glyphosate is the most widely used herbicide in the world and its demand continues to grow, unquote. As well as reported in a journal article by the Functional Plant Biology, the conventionally grown crop market has produced over $175 billion in a 30-year span. If you suggest to impose a tax on crop producers for the use of glyphosate, what substitute would you place to make up for these large economic losses?
The largest substitute for not using glyphosate as a desiccant is using a traditional desiccant, and then using post-harvest glyphosate as weed control like it was originally intended for. How would fines for post-harvest residue affect the market for GM crops as stated in your evidence, considering that glyphosate is not registered as a desiccant for those crops?
As we stated before, glyphosate is the most common use of herbicide. It has a 90% effective rate among killing the weeds. for your ease of harvest when it comes to harvest time. With these unwanted weeds, it'll affect your grade of the seed as well as the time to harvest. And with many acres to harvest, you will need to get the best quality of your crop off the fields. In multiple tests performed on animals to show symptoms from glyphosate, they were all conducted by direct injection of the animal. Do you have any evidence to prove that there can be different symptoms when the animal just consumes the seed itself versus the direct injection of the chemical?
When humans ingest glyphosate from residue, there are many symptoms that they can get. Roundup is very toxic when used. As well for animals, they also get many symptoms when ingested. The symptoms that animals get causes excess growth and death of liver cells, lens degeneration, and increased tumors.
How can you defend the use of glyphosate as a desiccant when consuming glyphosate has been found to be toxic to humans?
As per the National Weed Foundation, glyphosate is constantly being thoroughly reviewed and registered by regulatory agencies around the world. It is registered in more than 100 countries and has been available safe product for over 40 years. It is backed by one of the most extensive worldwide human health, safety, and environmental databases ever compiled for a crop protection product. The short story, however, is if this product was deemed unsafe for its particular proper use, it would not be publicly available. With glyphosate being registered in over 100 countries and heavily sprayed globally, how would you propose to enforce a tax with farmers?
The tax would be pretty simple just because when you go to sell your grain, a lot of countries are already testing for residue. And it'd be simple, it would be as simple as dockage on your grain sample when you go to sell it.
Why would you use pre-harvest glyphosate for weed control when you can achieve better plant spray coverage after the crop is taken off?
We found evidence in a journal, or Glyphosate Facts, that if you do a pre-harvest burn up with glyphosate, yields can come off 30% higher than if you don't.
Although, all throughout your evidence, many of these facts have stated that the amount of glyphosate found is very acute. Is there a certain amount that makes it unsafe for human consumption?
I think any consumption of something toxic to a human should be tried to reduce. So I think using a proper desiccant, which shows to have less residue, would be safer overall for humans, even than minute toxic amounts. What evidence can you show that using glyphosate is a better desiccant than traditional desiccants such as Reglone?
For one, it has shown to have better kill than if you use Roundup or Heat. As well, Heat just became registered within the last few years, so it's just been proven. As well, glyphosate has been around for a number of years. Farmers don't just use it for the killing of the seed, they also do it to kill unwanted weeds that are in the field at the time to eliminate a second pass after harvest.
If you had your way and a tax for the use of glyphosate was imposed, what alternative would you impose without pesticides that would produce the same level of output?
If farmers were to start getting fined for glyphosate residue, do you think farmers would stop using it as a desiccant?
I'd have to say no, just because it's so commonly used throughout the world. Registered in over 100 countries. I can't see it being limited.
It is also a very much more economically feasible chemical to use versus Reglone, which can be more expensive to use to save on costs of production.
In conclusion, we, the prosecution, believe that farmers that use glyphosate as a desiccant should be fined because glyphosate is shown to be toxic to humans and to animals when consumed. Glyphosate residue that is found in water affects aquatic life and affects the balance of the soil. Since more farmers are using glyphosate, more weeds are starting to become resistant to glyphosate.
As you can clearly see, post-harvest glyphosate applications should not be finable. With all these false and unsupported facts, how can it be possible to fine farmers for the use of this product to ease the weed presence in their field? There is no clearly stated test done saying glyphosate is harmful to us humans, our water supply, animals, or the environment. If anything else, more tests have shown the benefits of using glyphosate substantially outweigh the bad effects, if any. Our planet is already short enough on food supply as it is now. We need to find ways to increase our production and by fining those for using glyphosate, this would hurt that would hurt our chances to increase production. Without glyphosate, the economic and effects on food production in the world would be catastrophic.
Good job.